Before we talk about when to drink water and how to build a better hydration routine, we need to understand why so many people find themselves waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. This is one of the most common complaints I hear, especially from adults who feel they are doing the right thing by staying hydrated. They keep a large bottle of water nearby, sip throughout the evening, and even drink a glass before bed because they believe it is healthy. Then they wonder why their sleep keeps getting interrupted. The truth is that nighttime urination is not always about drinking too much water. Sometimes it is simply about drinking water at the wrong time. Your body is designed to regulate fluids throughout the day, but that process changes as you get older. The hormones that help reduce urine production during sleep may become less effective, which means your kidneys continue producing urine at a higher rate overnight. As a result, even a moderate amount of fluid consumed late in the evening can lead to one or more trips to the bathroom. There are also other factors that can contribute. Certain medications, especially those prescribed for blood pressure or swelling, can increase urine production. Some people may have an overactive bladder, while others may experience sleep disorders that make them more aware of the urge to urinate. Conditions such as diabetes, enlarged prostate in men, or bladder-related issues can also play a role. This is why it is important not to assume that waking up at night is simply a normal part of aging. Sometimes it is your body's way of signaling that something deserves attention. Another thing many people overlook is the impact of sleep interruption itself. When you wake up several times each night, your body loses valuable restorative sleep. You may spend enough hours in bed, yet still wake up feeling tired, foggy, and lacking energy. Over time, poor sleep can affect mood, concentration, immune function, and overall quality of life. In other words, the problem is not just the trip to the bathroom, it is the sleep you lose because of it. The good news is that for many people, simple adjustments can make a noticeable difference. Understanding the cause is the first step. Once you recognize that timing, habits, and lifestyle factors all influence nighttime urination, you can begin making smarter choices that support both hydration and sleep. And that brings us to one of the most effective strategies of all: learning how to get the water your body needs earlier in the day instead of trying to catch up on hydration in the hours before bedtime. Now that we understand why nighttime urination happens, the next step is learning one of the simplest and most effective strategies for preventing it: shifting your hydration earlier in the day. This may sound like a small change, but it can have a remarkable impact on both your sleep quality and your overall health. Many people approach hydration backwards. They get busy during the day, forget to drink enough water, and then try to make up for it in the evening. Perhaps they realize after dinner that they have only had a few glasses of water all day, so they start drinking more after work, while watching television, or even right before bed. The problem is that your body doesn't suddenly stop processing fluids just because you're ready to sleep. If you load up on water late in the evening, your kidneys continue doing their job, and sooner or later that bladder is going to send a wake-up call. Instead, think of hydration as something that should be spread throughout your waking hours. Your body uses water continuously. Every cell, tissue, and organ depends on it. When you drink steadily during the morning and afternoon, your body has plenty of time to absorb, utilize, and eliminate excess fluid before bedtime arrives. This allows you to remain well hydrated without creating unnecessary interruptions during the night. One habit I often recommend is starting the day with water soon after waking up. After several hours of sleep, your body naturally needs fluids. Getting an early start helps establish a hydration pattern that continues throughout the day. Then, rather than drinking large amounts all at once, Aim for consistent intake every few hours. A glass with breakfast, another during the morning, one with lunch, and regular sips throughout the afternoon can make a tremendous difference. What's interesting is that many people who begin hydrating earlier actually find they feel better overall. They often report improved energy levels, better concentration, fewer headaches, and reduced afternoon fatigue. That's because proper hydration supports circulation, digestion, temperature regulation, and countless other functions. You're not simply preventing nighttime bathroom trips, you're helping your body perform at its best. Another benefit of earlier hydration is that it naturally reduces the urge to overdrink later in the evening. When your body has been adequately supplied throughout the day, you don't feel the need to consume several large glasses of water before bed. Your thirst signals become more balanced and your fluid intake becomes more efficient. Of course, everyone's needs are different. Factors such as activity level, climate, age, and health conditions all influence how much water you need. The goal isn't to follow a rigid number. The goal is to make hydration a daytime activity rather than a bedtime activity. When you consistently give your body the fluids it needs during the hours when you're awake and active, you create the perfect foundation for uninterrupted rest later on. And once you've mastered that timing, the next step is learning exactly how to manage your fluid intake during the final hours before sleep. Once you've made hydration a priority earlier in the day, the next piece of the puzzle becomes much easier, managing what happens during the final few hours before bedtime. This is where many people unknowingly sabotage an otherwise healthy routine. They spend the entire day drinking appropriately, but then fall into habits that fill the bladder right before sleep and leave them wondering why they wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Now, I want to be very clear about something. The goal is not dehydration. I'm not suggesting that you stop drinking water altogether in the evening or ignore your body's thirst signals. Good health depends on proper hydration. What we're talking about is timing and balance. There's a significant difference between taking a few small sips when you're thirsty and drinking large amounts of fluid shortly before your head hits the pillow. Think about what happens when you drink a large glass of water right before bed. Your body immediately begins processing that fluid. Your kidneys filter it, your bladder fills, and while you may fall asleep initially, that growing pressure eventually triggers the urge to urinate. The result is a sleep cycle that gets interrupted at precisely the time your body should be focused on repair, recovery, and deep rest. For many people, reducing fluid intake during the last 2 to 3 hours before bedtime can make a noticeable difference. This doesn't mean following strict rules or measuring every ounce. It simply means being more intentional. If bedtime is 10 o'clock, consider making dinner your last major opportunity for fluid intake. After that, keep beverages lighter and more moderate. If you're thirsty, drink enough to satisfy that thirst, but avoid turning the evening into your primary hydration window. One reason this strategy works so well is that it gives your body time to process what you've already consumed. Instead of asking your kidneys to handle a large volume of fluid during sleep, you're allowing much of that work to be completed before you even get into bed. The bladder starts the night with less volume, which decreases the likelihood of being awakened by urgency. Many people are surprised by how quickly they notice a difference. They often report falling asleep more comfortably, staying asleep longer, and waking up feeling more refreshed. And when you think about it, that makes perfect sense. Sleep isn't just about how many hours you spend in bed. It's about how uninterrupted those hours are. Every unnecessary awakening fragments your sleep and reduces its restorative value. Of course, there will be exceptions. Hot weather, exercise, illness, or certain medical conditions may require additional fluids later in the day. The key is awareness. Pay attention to your body's patterns. Notice how your evening drinking habits affect your sleep. Small adjustments often produce results that feel surprisingly significant. When you combine earlier hydration with a more mindful approach during the evening hours, you're creating the conditions for deeper, more restful sleep. And as you'll see next, it's not only water that matters. Some of the biggest nighttime disruptions come from beverages and foods that many people never suspect are contributing to the problem. And that's where the hidden triggers begin to reveal themselves. By this point, we've talked about understanding nighttime urination, shifting hydration earlier in the day, and reducing excessive fluid intake before bed. But there's another piece of the puzzle that often catches people by surprise. Sometimes the issue isn't how much you're drinking, it's what you're drinking. Certain beverages and even some foods can quietly increase urine production, irritate the bladder, and make nighttime bathroom trips far more likely. One of the most common culprits is caffeine. Most people associate caffeine with staying awake, but fewer realize that it can also act as a mild diuretic and bladder stimulant. Coffee is the obvious example, but caffeine is also found in tea, energy drinks, sodas, and even some flavored waters. If you're enjoying these beverages late in the afternoon or evening, they may be doing more than keeping your mind alert. They may also be encouraging your body to produce more urine and increasing the chances of waking up during the night. Then there's alcohol, which can be particularly disruptive. Many people enjoy a glass of wine, a beer, or a cocktail in the evening because it seems relaxing. In fact, some even believe it helps them sleep. While alcohol can make you feel drowsy initially, it often leads to poorer quality sleep later in the night. It also suppresses a hormone that helps your body retain water, causing increased urine production. The result is a double challenge: more frequent bathroom trips and less restorative sleep. That's not exactly the combination most people are looking for. Sugary beverages can create problems as well. Soft drinks, sweetened teas, specialty coffee drinks, and certain fruit juices may contribute to increased thirst and fluctuations in blood sugar that affect fluid balance. While an occasional treat isn't likely to cause major issues, regular consumption, especially later in the day, can sometimes make nighttime symptoms worse than people realize. What surprises many people even more is that certain foods can have similar effects. Spicy foods, highly processed snacks, and meals loaded with salt can increase thirst, leading you to drink more fluids in the evening. Some individuals also find that acidic foods such as citrus fruits or tomato-based products irritate the bladder, making urgency more noticeable. Not everyone responds the same way, but it's worth paying attention to patterns. Your body often provides clues if you're willing to observe them. This is why I encourage people to become detectives of their own habits. Instead of assuming that nighttime urination is simply inevitable, start looking for connections. What did you eat? What did you drink? What time did you consume it? You may discover that a seemingly harmless evening beverage or snack is having a bigger impact than you ever suspected. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. You don't have to eliminate every favorite food or beverage from your life. In many cases, simply adjusting the timing or reducing the amount can make a meaningful difference. Small changes practiced consistently often lead to the biggest improvements. And when you combine smart hydration timing with a better understanding of these hidden triggers, you're no longer guessing. You're building a routine that supports both hydration and uninterrupted sleep. And that brings us to the final step, creating a simple nightly routine that makes all of these habits work together naturally. As we bring everything together, it's important to remember that avoiding nighttime bathroom trips isn't about relying on a single trick. It's about creating a simple, sustainable routine that works with your body's natural rhythms. When you understand why nighttime urination happens, hydrate earlier in the day, reduce excessive fluids before bed, and identify hidden triggers, you've already done most of the heavy lifting. Now it's time to turn those insights into daily habits that become second nature. One of the biggest mistakes people make is looking for an instant solution. They want one magic rule that will solve the problem overnight. But better sleep is usually the result of several small behaviors working together consistently. Think of it like building a strong foundation. Each habit may seem minor on its own, but when combined, they create a powerful effect. A good evening routine begins long before bedtime. If you've been drinking water steadily throughout the day, your body is already in a better position to settle into restful sleep. As evening approaches, begin paying attention to your fluid intake without becoming obsessive about it. Enjoy your dinner, stay comfortable, and avoid the temptation to compensate for missed hydration by drinking large amounts of water late at night. As bedtime gets closer, another simple habit can make a difference. Use the bathroom before getting into bed, even if the urge doesn't feel particularly strong. This may seem obvious, but many people skip this step because they're distracted by television, reading, conversations, or scrolling through their phones. Giving your bladder one final opportunity to empty before sleep can reduce the chances of an unnecessary awakening a few hours later. Creating a calm nighttime environment also matters. Stress and poor sleep habits can make you more aware of normal bodily sensations, including the urge to urinate. When people are sleeping lightly or waking frequently for other reasons, they often notice bladder signals they might otherwise sleep through. A consistent bedtime, a comfortable sleep environment, and a relaxing pre-sleep routine can all contribute to fewer disruptions throughout the night. It's also important to recognize when nighttime urination may require medical attention. If you're waking multiple times every night despite making these adjustments, or if the problem appears suddenly, becomes progressively worse, or is accompanied by pain, excessive thirst, swelling, or other symptoms, it's worth discussing with a healthcare professional. Sometimes nighttime urination is simply related to habits, but sometimes it can signal an underlying condition that deserves proper evaluation. There's no benefit in ignoring a problem that your body may be trying to bring to your attention. What I find encouraging is that many people experience meaningful improvements from surprisingly simple changes. They don't need expensive supplements, complicated routines, or drastic restrictions. They simply learn to work with their body's natural processes instead of against them. Better hydration timing, smarter evening choices, and a few consistent habits often lead to deeper sleep, better energy, and more refreshing mornings. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to drink less water. The goal is to drink water more wisely, so your days stay energized and your nights stay uninterrupted. Because the best hydration plan is the one that keeps you healthy during the day and sleeping peacefully through the night.